I want you to think about the superhero that best relates to you, but you have to choose between two heroes, Iron Man and Black Panther. Now, there's no way I can guess what you would pick. There's just too many unseen factors. But if I was to ask you to guess in the comments what superhero I would choose, I'm willing to bet most of you guess Black Panther. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comment. But I don't blame you for that stereotype, because this way of thinking is due to how we've been misled to believe our inspirations have to be similar to us. Girls can only be inspired by other women. Black people can only be inspired by other black people. So comic companies make archetypes to match that line of thinking. However, this is a tragic lie that has been a culprit of too many series meeting their early demise. One of the greatest victims of this fate was a TV show in the early 2000s called Static Shock, a Saturday morning cartoon that was canceled after 4 successful seasons. That TV show was not Static's first rodeo. If you didn't know, in the 1990s, Static had a comic run that was born from this lie and killed by it. I started reading this comic in February, and I realized during my reads something profound that we'll be discussing in this video. Static was created by one of America's greatest writers, Dwyane McDuffie, who is responsible for shows like Batman, the animated series, Ben 10, and much more. After working for DC, Dwyane decided he wanted to create a comic company that tells amazing and diverse stories, because he was tired of the blaxploitation in comics. Like all great artists, Dwyane was looking for truth in comics instead of creating black caricatures of black people. So he created Milestone Comics and Static as a character in that universe. The character Static holds deep symbolic meaning. Static was created from the liminal space between a broadcasting TV show and no signal. Not a part of TV programming, yet not ignored like a blank screen. A space that black characters are limited to occupy. Black characters are seen as noise. From that noise, birth Static. Instead of being impartial and allowing Static to prove its value, companies blinded themselves for profit and control over the narrative. Like Maki in JJK, Static was set up to fail. Being stuck in a battle with the great clans of comics, DC and Marvel, fighting for their own space in comics. No matter how successful Static is, it's never had a chance to be elevated into a starter like Superman. Static is kept on the bench on some BS because the verdict was given before the comic was released. Their verdict is Static is not for the casual fan. What's interesting about their verdict is we're all born with taste buds, yet all our taste varies. Even in the same family, everyone has different tastes. So how can a comic company promote Superman and Batman as a series for everyone while Static is limited to only for black people? This verdict creates a friction between white comic fans and Static. What's ironic is static electricity is created from friction. Comic companies' business patterns communicate a contradicting messaging than the stories they create. In the comics, everybody deserves to be saved. In reality, whoever pays the most deserves to believe in a superhero. Whoever earns the most deserves to be a superhero. Fans pay the most when being sold a white superhero. When a black superhero is created, they don't sell as much as their counterparts. So companies believe paying audiences don't want to be saved by black people. But this communicates that only white heroes should save everyone. Diverse fans don't pay enough, so they don't get to believe in a superhero. Saddest part is this messaging affects the less conscious, to the point they believe the lies. Like kids, they really believe that that's a fact about the larger world that they don't know, not understanding that it's propaganda. I've experienced a taste of this in my own life. When I was in school, I was a competitive swimmer, and a great one at that. I won a lot of races. I received a scholarship to swim in college. No matter the place, no matter the age, no matter the level, kids, adults, even coaches would always say, "I thought black people didn't know how to swim." The most uninspired joke ever. It's coded in the same vein as those comic companies, so I know what they're saying. I thought I was entitled to the space. What are you doing here? These jokes always tried to make me feel unwelcome, and it would trigger a competition between the other black people I would see, because there's only one spot. And the jokes would get much worse when you succeed in that space. They really start to wild out. They'll use another lie to devalue the results. Growth, saying that Static doesn't help grow enough because the series doesn't sell enough toys. I didn't know Static moonlit as a toy salesman after being a superhero. This is all while Static is being heavily underfunded, and after alienating the white fans from wanting to buy toys, telling fans that they don't relate to Static. Those who don't relate buy toys. But there's more nuance, because comic companies will say blacks don't show their support, so why should we care about Static? Not knowing that our lack of support is due to economic issues. On average, black Americans are stuck in the working class, meaning their wages are used for survival instead of buying toys and comic books. And comic companies won't dare to open a comic shop or a toy store in a predominantly black neighborhood. Even in our modern times, they'll say, "We don't profit," when there's cities like Atlanta that have the highest percentage of black millionaires. Instead, they blame us while not trying to connect with us where we're at. What I'm interested in is how these lies are perpetuated by the comic companies that were not created by white Americans, but by people who face similar persecution and racism. Jewish comic artists. DC and Marvel was created by a group of Jewish artists. Instead of staying true to their heritage and their identity for profit, they assimilate, becoming white superheroes. While we have no chance of assimilating due to the elephant in the room. In its early comic run, Static pointed to this assimilation, using the difference as a sign of superiority shown by priority. When faced with a decision between releasing a Superman comic or a Static comic, they prioritize Superman, prioritizing profit instead of quality or diverse stories. They prioritize profit, saying Superman is prioritized because he sells to casuals. But this leads to an overconsumption of their own characters, while Static is stuck in a cycle of rebuilding and rebirth into unfair circumstances where the whole system is against Static's success. Superman and Batman stories are constantly being regurgitated. Companies use this to keep fans clinging onto their hope that they'll get their hero. While Superman is kept at the top of the pyramid, Static is kept at the bottom. Everybody wants to win, but they want to win their own way. This is a tragic reason the characters like Static are unjustly judged. Because if Static is successful, then the companies that said black don't bring in profit has to acknowledge they are wrong. Since Static was created from Milestone, DC has to credit Milestone if Static is successful. Imagine the MCU openings where there's that Marvel brand ad at the beginning. Now imagine if before or after there was a Milestone branding. In audience's mind, It would tie both these entities together as collaborators. And to companies trying to have a monopoly, this inherently breaks the feedback loop they're trying to build. If Milestone is successful, this tells readers that there are more viable comic companies that you can invest in to find stories you relate to. So instead, companies will use their fans that look like us to devalue the series. Like recently, the controversy happening with the biggest YouTube comic content creator, Comics Explained.
Milestone Comics is effectively FUBU within comic books, right? It is black superheroes created by black faces.
It's crazy because all art is FUBU. That's what art is, for you, by us. But companies will decredit our stories and brand while actively keeping us out of their companies and then trying to sell to us. Plus, you can't devalue FUBU. FUBU's clothing was pretty dope, and I can't find any FUBU. If you know what stores are selling it, let me know. But I digress. This makes me think back to that joke I said, that swim joke. Black can't swim. Now I want you to think, does that joke work if a black person breaks swim records? I was always the target of unwarranted criticism and told I was not welcome. I worked hard to become undeniable. Spending most of my time working harder than any other swimmer, I succeeded setting multiple team and school records. Now, every kid that said a joke to me, if they go back to a swim pool, they'll see my name hung up. They have to confront their biased thoughts or not. But they can keep the joke because unlike them, I've etched my name in history. They have jokes. I have a record to speak for me. And that completely dismantles the joke and the system. If static is etched into the record books, it dismantles the system that comics have set up. And they can't say that static doesn't sell to casuals or black heroes don't profit. This shows that the problem with heroes like Static isn't the stories, the characters, or the profit. It's the fear that Static can be more successful than the comics that the companies want to be the top seller. And the fear that comic companies can't control the market or the narrative. For companies, instead of prioritizing diverse and entertaining stories, they see more of an advantage in controlling the market. So they'll dismiss and erase heroes like Static to regurgitate their own characters. And that's the problem. To end with, Static has already exposed this fear by being too iconic to erase. Like a Republican's Grindr account at RNC, suppression doesn't stop expression. Every year, fans of every creed and color ask, where's the Static media? This is so major because comics is in service to the fans. Comic companies can't ignore fans if they want to make profit. Fans' interest helps carve out the directions of the stories. Every series, every sequel, and character arcs is created from fans' interests, leading to Static returning in every decade since his creation. So, if you have the funds, support series like Static and keep them alive by talking about them. Remember what Dr. Hirolux said, a man only dies when his name is forgotten. Heroes like Static can't be forgotten since they've already saved countless lives like my own. If you don't have the funds to support, check out your local library because they have comics and manga you can check out and read. If not, the libraries do take requests to order books. That's what started this video. I checked out Static from the library in February and I wanted to create a video diving deeper into that. I don't know how to say this. I want to recognize how good it is to have Static in libraries because it's accessible to the public and not decided by funds. So just get out there and try to get Static in your library. And hey, that's why I wanted to bring it to the peak of fiction, to be as a piece of art that should be hung up and remembered. And unlike those who tried to keep me from swimming, everybody is welcomed here at the VP of Fiction.
They say your attitude determines your latitude. Well, I'm high as a muff, fly as a muff.